Good morning and welcome to the EZFX Trading Room broadcast for Monday, October 17th, 2016. My name is Bradley Freed, and for the next 20 to 30 minutes, you'll be joining me for a review of our watch list from last week. And if we have any new trades, I'll also be adding those to his watch list and explaining the setups and the plan for taking and managing those trades. On this page, I've also set up a chat room. If you have any questions during the broadcast, you're watching live, you can post your questions to that chat room, and I will answer them live at the end of the broadcast. If you're watching the recording and you have a question, you can go to the community menu on this website, question or a comment on the trading room group, or you can find me in members. My handle is EZFX, and send me a personal message. Or you can go ahead and send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. So let's go ahead and get started by reviewing our watch list from last week. As of Thursday, we were watching a New Zealand dollar buy, a euro dollar buy, dollar Swiss sell, dollar Sing dollar sell, pound dollar buy, euro pound sell, and pound Aussie buy. Our new or open trades were the pound Swiss sell. That was a trend trade. And dollar kroner buy trend trade. Those are both on the 4-hour chart. It's a euro yen sell, an Aussie dollar sell, and an Aussie Newsy buy. And that was an open trend trade. So let's go ahead and hop over to our charts, take a look at these trades and see what else we've set up in the meantime and what else is going on this week. Let's go ahead and start with the new and open trades. I think that's a good place to start. We did open a new signal trade, or several new signal trades since we last spoke. Specifically, buy, that was a signal trade we sent out last week. That started with this trend line break here that we talked about previously, a color change on the triangular moving average, and we had Class A divergence down here where our trend lines touch this Class B demand zone. As of this time, this pair is rising and it's getting ready to challenge this recent high here. If it can go beyond that, I think it can get all the way to our weekly pivot, which is also right at this resistance level here, where these two wicks were challenging this price and rejected before they drop to this low down here. So I feel pretty good about this one. This one is moving pretty well. The stop is right below this demand zone. Once we hit this weekly pivot, we'll go ahead and take partial profit and move the stop to break even and try for our extension profit target up here, which is another weekly pivot at 0.7275. So this New Zealand dollar buy is now an open trade. And a signal trade. The other one, excuse me. Sell. This also had a trend line break and a color change in the triangular moving average and a Class A supply zone above that it had dropped from. It dropped for a while, then it retraced back to the zone, and now it's falling again back to this trend line, which is very interesting. We have two wicks which have touched this line and kind of bounced off. I'm looking for a breakdown below this line and for this trade to finally start progressing into the money. Initial profit is a weekly pivot, 0.977 move. So that's a nice coincidence. I go a little bit further and do this other weekly pivot, which is just in front of the 78.6% retracement level on this move. So this trade is currently open. It almost stopped out. It did not stop out. If we can get a breakdown and some momentum downwards finally from this pair before it hits a stop, then we should be able to make some money on this trade. So the dollar Swiss sell is also now open. Next, let's look at our next new trade was one I just sent out last night. This is a dollar CAD buy. We had this was at the time a buy bubble, a trend line break, and we just hit this class B zone here. So I put a stop below the zone, and on this breakout and these other confirming signals, I went ahead and bought the pair. It advanced for a little bit, now it's dropped again. I'm hoping it'll pick up momentum, perhaps even bounce off the zone one more time, and then begin a journey back up to the top of this recent range to this supply zone here, which we set our initial profit target. If we there and we take partial profit on the trade, we will move our stop to break even and then try for the next supply zone as our final profit target at 1.33745. This trade is also currently open, and it's a new signal trade. And we're also watching and following this on the 1 hour chart. I started distinguishing between those two simply because we've started to look at some things in the 4 hour chart due to the volatility of the pairs. And so I'll be marking the time frame chart that we're managing and watching the trade on. So those are the three most recent setups. Also, we can go ahead and update the things we've been in longer. This Aussie Newsy buy trade is still trending in my mind. I drew a trend line below this trend. We do have a class A signal here. The triangular moving average has not yet changed color. I'm going to hold on a little bit longer and see if we can push through this high and make some higher highs, and if this trend will continue further. If you want to take profit, this is a valid exit signal, this class A supply zone here, and you can go ahead and close the trade, take profit, and the trade would be over for you at that point. I'm going to elect to see if we can punch through all of this and get at least one more level, maybe up to this supply zone at 1.08935 before I capitulate and go ahead and take profit on the trade. At this point on this trade, the stop is at break even. So there's no real risk on the table, but we do have money on the table that we would lose if it stopped at a break even. I'm willing to go ahead and take a chance and see if we can take it further. This pair is reacting very nicely to this trend line. It has dropped through it and gone back above. If it had a big candle close below that, I might be interested in just go ahead and closing out the trade, taking a small win and finishing off this idea. But if it can bounce off this area back up and make a higher high, then I'll know the trend is intact and then it's going to move higher. So that's what I'm doing currently on this particular trade. Aussie Newsy buy, trend trade still open for me with the option to go ahead and take profit in that it's given us a valid reversal signal. Dollar kroner, this is my other trend trade. This dropped pretty hard and then it bounced off basically this trend line here. It reached this low here, almost got to the stop, but did not. It rose up. If it can make a higher high, then I'll have more confidence that the trend is intact and that I can continue on with this trade. We are watching this on the 4 hour chart and trying to get to this level here, which is the monthly pivot for September, 8.3229. That's our initial profit target. Beyond that, we're looking at another monthly pivot, this time for August, 8.4363. If we look at this on a higher time frame chart, we can see this pair has bounced off this lower zone before, and it carved through both of those targets when it did that. It's dropped there again. There was definitely some pending orders there and an imbalance between supply and demand that drove this pair up this far. I'm hoping it'll go at least to this support or resistance level here, and hopefully further up to our final monthly pivot target, which is right in the midst of this previous zone consolidation, which this pair, in my opinion, has a high probability of returning to. Currently on the 4 hour chart, the triangular moving average is blue. We're in a bullish trend. If we go to the 1 hour chart, I think it becomes a little bit less clear. This pair has had a buy bubble here and then shot up again. And it's basically in reacting to this class A supply zone here. If it can bounce through that and punch through that, let me just refresh one more time so that this zone extends out. then our trend is intact and we're still moving higher. So I'm still managing this on the 4-hour chart, and we'll see how it goes. So the dollar kroner is also still open. Next, let's look at the pound Swiss sell trend trade. I've been holding on to this. I'm expecting the zone of consolidation to yield a drop, and I'm expecting it to revisit this low made during the flash crash we had 2 weeks ago. That's the basic trade idea. Beyond that, I would trend follow it and use the trend following rules to manage the position, and then finally close out the trade when we get an appropriate closure signal. At this point, it hasn't moved very far. It's a little bit in the money. I'm looking for a big candle. I'm looking for a big candle to drop, and also to go below this recent low made here, and see if we can get some downward momentum on this pair. But we're not quite there yet. However, the trade is still open. This is also in the trend direction. Next, we have a euro-yen open, a euro-yen pair. That was a sell trade, and that was not a signal trade, but I've been updating it anyway. So this pair dropped, and it's been bouncing off our initial profit target. It had a bit of divergence appear here. It had a TMA color change, triangle moving average color change, and then it went red again and dropped. This currently is consolidating and ranging. I would not be surprised if this falls further and finally gets to our profit target here. Our stop is currently at break even. We have no risk. We've taken partial profit on the trade. I'm content for myself to hold on and see if we can reach this final profit target. You may elect, given that we have had a opposite class A signal here with this divergence that happened inside of this huge demand zone and this triangular moving average color change, to go ahead and take profit on the rest of this trade and walk away. I am going to hold on and see if we can get a drop down to the final profit target. Next, let's look at the Aussie dollar sell. And this particular trade, it hit its initial profit target. We took partial profit. It rose, and it was stopped out at the break-even stop. So the total profit on this trade from the initial profit target to the from the entry to the initial profit target was 99 pips. And we'll go ahead and move this off the board. And this was a successful trade. And what else do we have going on now? I sent out an analysis report yesterday, and there's a few things I'm watching. The pound, despite it dropping really far, the pound yen is interesting because of the role of dollar strength and yen weakness, or actually yen strength and dollar weakness, if you want to think about it that way. Could be poised for a rise simply versus the dollar. The dollar pound drop against the dollar. So I'm looking at this and drawing trend lines. I'm not ready to take a trade on this. We still have our triangle moving average, which is red. We're seeing new supply zones form above price. Those are all indications that this downtrend is continuing. If it breaks through this lower low, the sell trend continues. But if it breaks through this trend line and we see some other signs of a buy trade, it may mean that we're seeing a shift in the balance of these currency pair values and the trends, especially in the yen, which has been strong, but it looks like it wants to get weaker again. That would drive a trend reversal in the opposite direction, and there's several nice targets above that we could use to take profit. So this, really, I'm just watching at this point. I don't think there's a setup imminent, but it is very interesting to me. The dollar peso, this is potentially setting up a buy trade. This initial signal here really didn't pan out. It's been ranging, is what it's been doing. It has a slight upward trend momentum, but only very slight. So what I'm thinking about is we can take a second chance entry by drawing boundaries above and below this supply zone here. And if we get a close above this zone, I would be interested in buying this pair and thinking about profit targets above, including pivots and supply zones. But at this point, again, I'm still just watching this, waiting for an appropriate setup and confirmation to appear. Two other things I'm watching: euro dollar buy. This pair has fallen very, very rapidly, and it's producing signs of a reversal. I've drawn a new trend line above price, and the wicks seem to be hitting that. So this is a significant line that a lot of people are drawing, looking for a breakout. I have a buy bubble here. I previously had a buy bubble here that really didn't have that. It had this small effect before it dropped and made a lower low. This pair may be getting ready to reverse, and when it does, I want to go ahead and be ready to take a trade on it. Still thinking about profit targets. I need to readjust my fibs down to the recent low, especially once we get an entry signal. And then we can think about, for example, a 50% Fibonacci target and 78.6% fib target, or the monthly pivot above, which is a really nice target to return to and very reliable. So let's see, let's just update our list here. We had euro dollar buy. That's still in the offing. I'm still watching on the 1 hour chart. Dollar yen, this is the other one. This gave us some trouble last week. We had a sell signal. I sold it. It stopped out. I took a buy trade after it broke through the supply zone it had set up on, and that stopped out. So I stopped trading. I lost 2% on that idea. But now it's a new week, and so we can start thinking about a new setup on this pair again. And redrawing a trend line, trying to find to take a sell trade. Or there is also a buy trade. If it punches through the zone, this pair may continue to trend higher, especially what I talked about, the yen starting to devalue. And I think if there's, and as I wrote in my report, if there's a Clinton win in the election and the dollar gets stronger and interest rates are raised in the first quarter of the next year, I think we could see a significant strengthening or weakening of the yen. Perhaps if we go back to the daily chart, back up to where it was a few months ago at 120 and above, maybe 124, 126. I think we could easily see that happen with this pair, and it all depends on the strength of the dollar and the pending election, and also whether or not the U.S. raises interest rates. Japan almost certainly will not raise interest rates. They're actually at negative interest rates at this point in time. So any change in the dollar is going to yield a huge weakening of this currency, which is a big trade opportunity for us. And kind of, it's a very emotional level for the pair. It, of course, several years ago, it did go far below that, but I would look for it to bounce off here and return to these levels up here in the coming months. And hopefully we'll be ready and have opportunities to get into a trade and perhaps hold it for a little bit longer than we normally would to take advantage of this fundamental shift in the currency pair. Okay, so let's go ahead then and add this to our watch list. It's a dollar yen. We're looking at the 1 hour chart for now. We also have pound yen I want to add. On the 4 hour chart. Dollar peso on the 1 hour chart. And all the rest are open trades at this point. So let's look at what was left on our watch list. The dollar Sing dollar. I wasn't able to send that out as a signal, but it did open last week. Let's just look at that chart and see what happened. I don't have this currency pair available on FXCM, so I wasn't able to trade it, but it did set up a trend trade. It broke through a second time and has risen pretty nicely, actually, making the supply zone up here, which you could close out the trade on the signal. You could hold until the triangular moving average changes color. This is all happening on the 1 hour chart. Above the initial profit target is this next supply zone at 1.40057, and we can try to hold out for that. If we look at this on the 4-hour chart or the daily chart, we can see this pair dropped pretty significantly before bottoming out here and starting to rise. And as the dollar gains strength, I think we're going to see it continue. So I would really like to try to get to this initial profit target and take profit there if possible. So I'm going to call this open, but it is not a signal trade. And I only send out things that I actually trade as signals. So because I couldn't trade this, I didn't send it. Otherwise, I would be in this, I think, definitely. Finally, let's look at our pound trades. We have pound Swiss, we're already in short. Let's look at the pound dollar and see where that's at. So the pound dollar, we're looking for a buy trade. This is still falling towards its, I think it's just like the other pairs really. I think it's going to revisit this wick down here. However, because it's falling, our next big move would be a buy. So I'm going to keep monitoring it. I have a pretty nice trend line. Broken bubble has pretty much been ignored. Off of price as it falls. So this to me is still trending down, and we're still waiting for a reversal. Pound Aussie, same thing. This has actually made lower lows recently. It's producing some Class B divergence. It's producing another kind of shallow buy bubble here, but really no reaction from this currency pair as fundamentals continue to drive it further and further down versus the Aussie. Pound dollar, same thing. We just looked at pound dollar. Euro pound, that's the other one. Euro pound is kind of broke through this trend line, but now it's rising again. It's consolidating, I think, for another rise, more weakening of the pound against the euro. And this is just kind of inevitable at this point. So I would, even though we had a sell bubble here, it really didn't react to it. You could draw a trend line under this zone of consolidation. If we had a breakdown related to that and some other signals of a sell trade happen, then we might be interested in selling this pair. But for now, I'm still watching these. And I'm also open to buy opportunities when they appear and when we have valid confirmation. So that's really all I'm looking at this point in the week. It's a good start to the week, I think. We have several trades open. I will be keeping you updated by email when there's changes in our signal trades. And I'm just going to check real quick if we have any questions in the chat room, if anyone's watching live today. And at the moment, we don't have any live questions. As I mentioned earlier, if you have a question, you're watching the recording, you can go to the community, go to groups, find the trading room group, post there. You can go to members and find me on EZFX and send me a private message, or you can always send an email to ezfxignal@gmail.com. And I make best efforts to answer my emails within 24 hours. If it's urgent, please mark it urgent, and I'll be happy to try to answer sooner. Thanks for watching today's Trading Room. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the EZFX Trading Room. More trades updates and hopefully more trade ideas for you as well. And hopefully we can report on some winners as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.